So I delayed this video a few days, thinking somebody had to say something, right? Because either scenario, it makes sense to say something. If you're BlackBerry and Onward Mobility and it's not true, you want to come out and say, hey, it's not true, because you don't want people cutting bait, moving on, and buying another device. And if it is true, well, then Onward Mobility's been kicked to the curb by BlackBerry. They have zero reason not to come out and say, hey, listen, not going to be a BlackBerry, but we're still working on something pretty cool that you might want to hang around for. Maybe that's just me, but then again, I'm a guy on the internet who's got stitches in his video. Hey, what's up to all my Luscious fans? Steve Alicious here with the BlackBerry Priv, but it's not going to be a video about the BlackBerry Priv. It's going to be a video about the Onward Mobility device that was rumored to be the Priv form factor. We'll talk about that in just a moment. But the point of the video today is I put out a poll, a vote on the community page a few days ago, and 185 of you were kind enough to vote in that, so I appreciate that. But 72% of those people who voted said that they would buy an Onward Mobility device as long as it had the build quality that it was originally going to have as a BlackBerry, but of course it's not going to have the BlackBerry support or presumably the BlackBerry security. But 72% would still jump in and be interested in an Onward Mobility device. Now, a lot of that could be that we're starving. We're thirsty. Even the Mirage in the distance looks good when you're that thirsty, because we don't have anything on the horizon to really get us excited on the mid-tier flagship level when it comes to keyboard phones. So I get it. But let's take it at face value and say you'd want an Onward Mobility device. What would get you interested and what would keep you back from buying one? First off, I love the decision, if it's true, to have gone with a Priv form factor, because you get all the niceties of the keyboard, okay, capacitive touch, all the rest. I like the Priv keyboard. I understand it's not on par with a lot of the other keyboards. Look, I would have loved another Passport, a Passport 2, but I live in this universe, so I understand there are other factors that go into that. So, is this a limited keyboard? Yes, but don't forget, how big could it be? How big could how far could the key travel be when it's got to tuck back under a screen? There's only so much you could do with the keys and the keyboard on a device like this. But at least we have a somewhat quality keyboard for the people who want it. Now, this is where you branch out. People who don't want it. You're in a meeting. You just need to respond to something quickly. Or you're just scrolling Instagram to Twitter, whatever it is. You can close it up, and you got a nice little glass slab here. And the importance of that isn't necessarily that it's a glass slab like every other device. The importance of that is, unlike the Key 2, which had compatibility issues, there's going to be no Android app that's going to have an issue with this display. Everything's going to run. There's going to be no issue with it not formatting properly on this display, which is what you need, because zero developers are going to take a second out of their day in order to make their app run better on a BlackBerry. So if you go to them and say, all right, you don't need to do anything, you download it straight off the Play Store, it's going to look great on our device, I think that was absolutely the right move. Now, if you take away the BlackBerry branding, I don't think you can get away with flagship pricing anymore. Now, it was going to be a tough sell anyway of BlackBerry in 2022 coming out of flagship pricing. But now I really think you're stretching it if you're going over $1,000 on this device now. And the main reason to me is the software. So if BlackBerry's not handling the Android distribution, you assume that Onward Mobility would have to find somebody else or do it in-house with the limited number of people that they have. And that is almost guaranteeing you a highly generic version of Android that maybe you'll be lucky once every 3 months to get an update. And that's not what you'd come to expect from a BlackBerry device. So that's where you kind of lose me. So if this is just a generic mid-tier smartphone with kind of standard, subpar, maybe all the way to average software support, that's not $1,000. If you're telling me it's It's not like the Key 2 software support was that great. But you'd presume, in an ideal world, with them worried about security, that you'd be getting pretty regular security updates. You'd have DTEC and all the rest of it, which I know is... Look, there is a limit to how secure you can make Android. I get that. I know some of this stuff might be a little bit more for personal security, just to make you feel good inside. But if that's being taken away, I don't think you could charge $1,000 anymore. I think you're squarely $750, hopefully sub 7. Now, if that means you gotta take the Snapdragon 888 out of it, it's a year old anyway. Maybe you could get it cheaper. I don't know. But if you gotta take that out of it and give us a Snapdragon 780 chip or whatever the mid-range, upper mid-range chipset is for Snapdragon this year, go ahead and do that. I don't think I have a problem with that. I don't think anyone would have had a problem with that anyway. We're gonna be so happy with the build quality and the fact that we're getting a keyboard that I don't think you're gonna know. People are getting this device. This isn't going to be a heavy gaming device anyway. We don't use half the power that we need in these chips. So if you're able to put a mid-ranger in here, make it $700, do it. And the same thing with the camera. Even the flagships get a little silly when it comes to this camera stuff. Spending 45 minutes of a presentation on a camera, all this money into the camera, all the megapixels in the camera. Give us a serviceable camera, and I think everybody's going to be happy with it, especially on a device like this because we're getting that keyboard phone. You can make a perfectly better than serviceable camera in 2022. Plenty of these smartphones have them for not $1 million. And I think that's what they would need to do if it were possible, if they could redesign it somehow or use cheaper components or put a cheaper camera in here. The thing is that it would really have to sell you on keyboard. It would really have to be a good one. They didn't use a BlackBerry keyboard. That was my understanding, was the news story. They didn't use a BlackBerry keyboard. It'd have to have a good, nice, bright display. 1080p. Doesn't have to be Quad HD. Doesn't have to be 4K. 90. I would like 90 hertz. I think in a mid-tier range, $650, $700, you could still provide 90 hertz. I don't think that's out of the question. But tell me below what you think is necessary to get you to jump in and buy a non-BlackBerry branded Onward Mobility device. Would you be comfortable with the security? Would you be... the biggest question far and away is the software. What would they do? They were going to be relying on BlackBerry for the software. Do they go to somebody else? Is it as secure? I see a lot of the appeal. That was a lot of the appeal of what this device was going to bring. If you take that away, I think you definitely knock it down a peg. It's going to be tough. And you don't want to be stuck in a situation where you're getting security updates once every 3 months, once every 6 months, because that's just going to be annoying. That's just another phone at that point. It's another budget device. It does nothing for me. It brings nothing to the table. I think they have a shot. As you saw in the poll, people are still interested. The true believers are going to be here no matter what. BlackBerry's turned us away. They've said enough at this point if the rumors are true. We don't want anything to do with you. Well, the people still want a keyboard phone, a physical keyboard phone anyway. They're going to be sticking around forever. And there is that segment of the population. So I'd love to hear from you guys what that population needs. It's keyboard or nothing. It's keyboard or they're getting a couple tin cans of some string. So what would you need in a non-BlackBerry Onward Mobility keyboard phone? And don't forget, they're not, even though the price is $750, they're competing with Astro Cosmo communicator thing was $1,000, that F1 whatever was $900. So there's a lot, and with not horrible software support. So the phones that are out there are expensive. So I do think there is a way for them to come in somewhere between those higher end devices that are $900, $1,000 with questionable support, and the Unihertz devices, which are in the $200 range, $300 range. There's a middle ground there that if they provide a good device with good support, they got half a shot. Let me know what you think down below. If you've made it this far, like, comment, subscribe, all that fun stuff. Until next time, have that Steve-licious day.